Hello again, everybody. Zach Tech is here with my WWE Raw review for tonight, September 3rd, 2012, aka Labor Day. I thought Raw until the ending was kind of a weak Raw tonight. We had a couple of things that were okay, but as of every 3 hour Raw, the bad outweighs the good. We had a couple of bad incidents, including a hug out, which I'll of course vent about when I get to that segment, but the ending made up for it. We had a sneak attack, a decent main event, and a return. They could set up a huge storyline with, of course, Cena and Punk. Now on with my Raw review, kicking off with the WWE Champion and the World Champion, CM Punk and Sheamus. Sheamus came out first, talking about Chicago being a party town, but here comes the hometown favorite, CM Punk, despite, of course, attacking Jerry Lawler before Raw, preventing Lawler from appearing on Raw, storyline or not. Punk came out saying Chicago's the only one that respects me. Well, maybe the respect may have gone down the drain by the main event, by the ending, like I mentioned. So CM Punk talked about Chicago respecting him for his decisions, both wanting respect, blah blah blah. Sheamus goes back and forth, having a little respect off about who's disrespecting who, blah blah blah. And here comes AJ declaring that we have two main events this evening. Nine champions participants against each other. It would be Sheamus against CM Punk in a champion versus champion match. And of course, our main event would be CM Punk's opponent at the champions, Cena, taking on Sheamus' opponent up to the Rio in a main event, which would turn out to be a false count anywhere match. Now, with those matches set, on with our first match of the evening, which was Randy Orton against Dolph Ziggler. The feud's been building up for weeks. Of course, they had a match on Friday on SmackDown, and Ziggler wanted a rematch. And that's how we began with Randy Orton against Dolph Ziggler. Decent match, decent opener. For being the 3 hour Raw, it is kind of a shit basically. A lot of good things and a lot of stupid things. There's just one of the few good things about one night. Decent, okay, exciting opener. Kick things off. It was kind of back and forth action. Dolph had control. Randy had control. And Randy seemingly had control near towards the end when, of course, his three moves of doom. The power slam, of course, DDT, ready and wearing for the RKO. But Ziggler counted it. And they got into a roll up with the tights. 1, 2, 3. Dolph Ziggler gets the victory. No help from Vicky at all, but a little help from the tights. Because, of course, Dolph got the roll up on Orton in a decent opener for Raw this evening. And then on to many segments throughout the evening as the anger management storyline between Kane and Daniel Bryan came to its happy but stupid ending. We saw various clips throughout the evening once again about them having anger management. It seemed that they had passed the anger management class with flying colors. Of course, shaking hands mostly and trying to. Of course, Daniel Bryan and Kane with their anger collages, and Daniel Bryan made the Kane that I feel you now. I know what you feel. But then at the second segment or third segment of this thing tonight, Kane and Bryan's friendship kind of broke down, which led to, of course, War Active, which I'll get to later on. It was the options for Kane and Bryan to settle their little problem. Either was in a match against each other, tag match, or hugging it out. I'll rant on that in just a little bit. Now on with our next match, which wasn't for a little while, which was a tag match. We had Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara versus Cody Rhodes and weird partner Enzi. These are matchup. I know a lot of people would feel that Mysterio and Sin Cara would be better opponents than tag partners. And it's kind of a dream team, but it's also a dream match. We want to see those two wrestle. One of these days, WWE, they've been on the same show, then traded. So hopefully, maybe one of these days, before Rey Mysterio retires or before Sin Cara gets fired for botching too much, we can see Sin Cara against Rey. Until then, we saw him teaming up against Tenzan and Cody Rhodes. Okay, matchup with, of course, Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara again the victory in an okay tag match with Tenzai and Cody Rhodes, ending with, of course, Rey Mysterio delivering the 619 on Cody Rhodes. Then a big splash from Sin Cara. 1-2-3 victory for them. Of course, continuing Sin Cara's obsessed feuding with Cody Rhodes over the mask of Sin Cara. Of course, their feud ain't over yet. But we're gonna develop more with Sin Cara and Cody. So there you go. Sin Cara Mysterio wins. Okay, tag match. Let's move on to our scheduled main event for the second hour, which was, of course, the champion versus champion match made by AJ, which was supposed to be Sheamus against CM Punk. CM Punk came out in his street gear. Okay, talk about being in Chicago. And of course, we all know the whole Jerry Lawler thing. Jerry Lawler said CM Punk, when he attacked the Rock, he turned his back on the WWE Universe, and CM Punk said he didn't. Well, he did turn his back, or basically walked out on the WWE Universe in Chicago by taking a personal day off, like people do on Labor Day. It's like everybody here tonight, because today's Labor Day. By the way, hope y'all have a happy Labor Day. Hope you had a good one today. I did. Talk about it more. Excellent. CM Punk said everybody here tonight is celebrating Labor Day by taking a day off. Well, so am I. So Punk walked out and began AJ's downward spiral, which I'll get to throughout the evening. Get to in a little bit on this review. So with Punk walking out on AJ, walking out on Wall, and walking out on Sheamus in a scheduled match, which I think would may get rescheduled, probably for next week, hopefully. Sheamus needed an opponent. So it was an easy win for Sheamus as he took on Jack Swagger, who's of course going down a downward spiral. And the next to walk out following his loss against Sheamus after getting submitted in the Texas Cloverleaf. A lot of Dean Malenko things tonight, with Sheamus using Dean Malenko's move, and also Antonio Cesaro for his match using kind of a remix of Dean Malenko's thing. Anyway, Swagger did have some offense, but of course it ended, like I said, with Sheamus delivering the Texas Cloverleaf on Jack Swagger, 1, 2, 3, as Sheamus won, and of course Swagger about to walk out, the second superstar walk out tonight on AJ and Wall after Punk. Alberto Del Rio, who was at ringside with Ricardo, of course Alberto takes on Sheamus at Night of Champions, came into the ring and tried to attack Sheamus. However, as Sheamus was about to deliver the brogue kick, Alberto's ring announcer Ricardo took the bullet. He got knocked out, unconscious, and unable to announce Alberto for the main event this evening. And we're hearing a lawsuit may happen storyline-wise with David Otunga. So there you go. Sheamus beats Jack Swagger, beats the crap out of Ricardo, taking a bullet for Alberto, saving him for his match against Cena tonight. Now, on with our next match, which was a number one contender for the Divas Championship, Caitlyn taking on Eve. May I say more? But we saw it was another typical Divas match with Eve trying to turn face again by showing sportsmanship, but taking an opportunity as Caitlyn got a little injured with an Eve victory with Layla on commentary. Of course, Layla, like I mentioned, will take on Caitlyn and Nia Champions for the Divas Championship. Typical Divas match, kind of a silly ending with Eve trying to shake hands with everybody, trying to turn face again. But the old saying goes, once a hostie, always a hostie in my mind. Speaking of hostie, we'll get to the broski who was on. Yes, I had another match tonight in a few moments. But after Eve gets a victory, on our next match, which was the squasher as Jinder Mahal ended his feud with Ryback. Typical Ryback squash, but Jinder tried to fight off, but of course, Jinder Mahal once again was like the others, just another victim to Ryback's feeding frenzy. Ryback won, marched around, feed me more, that's it, Ryback. We did your Goldberg chance though. Before we go on with the review, Chicago crowd, usually this is the best crowd I've seen. You know, Chicago was always the best crowd. Crowd was kind of okay tonight until like the main event. So those are my thoughts on the crowd. But now on with our next match, which was for the United States Championship as Santino Marella tried to regain it against Antonio Cesaro. Now this match was kind of stupid. Santino was trying to get the Cobra out and slipped out. And no, the Cobra did not get distracted by Oksana, but the Cobra did prove to be a costly distraction for Santino. Santino, focused on trying to get the Cobra and get the victory, was too distracted to focus on the match. As Antonio Cesaro got the victory and retained the United States Champion, the Cobra, even though it didn't get distracted by Oksana, did prove to be, like I said, a costly distraction for Santino. And speaking of comedy reliefs, I mentioned his nickname, Broski, earlier. We saw the Holski earlier, now we got the Broski. Zack Ryder, after beating David Otunga last week, took on the one-man band, Heath Slater, two colorful personalities in WWE these days. He had control early on. He tried to prove to everybody, hey, I'm finally going to win one. But indeed, Heath Slater got the Broski boot and the Rough Rider after 2 attempts. And a Zack Ryder victory in Chicago. Woo woo woo, you know it, baby. The Ryder Revolution's back. Ryder or Wyatt. Can't see Ryder back on Raw and winning. That's another few of the good things this evening. Now, Zack Ryder was celebrating. This is when AJ's downward spiral continued. With Vicky Guerrero coming out to confront AJ after, of course, what happened last week when AJ slapped the taste out of Vicky Guerrero, had a little cat fight. Before AJ came out, by the way, before that, Vicky Guerrero had a chair, and that she with WWE parodied the infamous Clint Eastwood speech at the Republican National Convention. If you didn't see it, it's probably all over YouTube. Clint Eastwood put up a chair and imagined the chair was Barack Obama, like an invisible person, talk about stuff. And that's what Vicky did, parodying that by talking to AJ invisible, like talking to a chair, thinking the chair is AJ. Like I said, parodying the Clint Eastwood Republican National Convention speech. Now, Vicky was doing her best Clint Eastwood impersonation, not impersonating his voice, but parodying his chair speech. Here comes AJ. And AJ said she got the former board of directors and said she, after what happened last week and her attitude with people lately, of course, the whole Daniel Kane thing and attack on Vicky last week, AJ's not allowed to touch anybody again. Not, it didn't say unless provoked, like the whole Stone Cold thing. When Stone Cold was Cold GM, you're going to touch anybody unless provoked. That doesn't apply to AJ's situation. Like, not touch anybody at all, even if provoked. Well, Vicky Guerrero took full advantage of it by slapping the taste out of AJ many times, knowing AJ couldn't do a damn thing about it because of this whole thing with the board of directors. So, and after that, AJ just went off. She went on a screw lips. She went off big time. She threw a chair. She had a big anger tantrum and a explosion. So there you go. Now, before we get to the main event, I forgot a segment, and I almost purposely left it out because it's so fucking stupid. We had the whole AJ making things with, of course, Kane and Daniel Bryan. Now, I mentioned, of course, we had the second and final week of anger management, and it seemed, like I said in the beginning, that it seemed that they were finally confronting their anger and trying to make peace with themselves and kind of end their anger problems. But however, Kane and Bryan had a little shoving match after trying to say one's better than the other, and have their anger come back in the second segment of anger management, which caused tonight's Raw Active. Tonight's Raw Active, Twitter. Fans got to choose between Kane and Bryan fighting it out one-on-one, fighting it in a tag match, or hugging it out. Well, as I had feared, the fans, the WWE Universe chose hugging it out. To quote The Miz for a moment, really? 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 A hug out? What the fuck? Stupid! Stupid! You know, it was just, this is about as worse as Santino and Ricardo's tuxedo match a few months ago on pay-per-view. At least that was on, I think this was free, not on pay-per-view, but anyway, Kane and Bryan tried hugging, and they finally hugged it out, But then, to my happiness, toot it out. Despite hugging it out, they had another shoving match, which led towards an impromptu fight. With Kane chokeslammed Bryan, but Bryan escaped yet again, running out of the ring. So the Kane and Bryan feud that kind of ended with the old anger management thing has been reignited tonight after their anger management classes went off the window and they didn't learn anything from anger management. So there you go. I'm happy they duked it out, but I'm just pissed that the fans chose hugging to begin with. Really, WWE? This is probably what it's going to be like on WWE Saturday Morning Slam. It shouldn't be Saturday Morning Slam. It should be Saturday Morning Hug. Because that's what everyone's going to do. Hugging it out like Kane and Daniel Bryan tonight. Now on to our main event of the evening, which was actually not that bad. Like I said, on a week wall with a lot of silly things outweighing the good, but indeed the main event was actually one of the best things of Raw tonight. John Cena taking on Bruno Del Rio in a false count anywhere match. The first minutes of the match were mostly in the ring. I was like, come on, it's false count anywhere, fellas. And it seemed like Cena was going to get the victory in a quick way with the front knuckle shuffle and attempting the FU. But Alberto closed on him off the top and had a little backstage brawl that included a lot of killer spots, including a nasty kick from Alberto and also Alberto countering an attempted FU by Cena on the table to his own little side suplex to the table, the announce table. And like I said, the match ended up duking out to the back, attacking anything and everything, using anything and everything as a weapon backstage, including the wall set. And I was watching this and I said, well, we all know Punk walked out tonight. I said, there's probably a chance Punk's going to come back and help Cena lose. Well, I was right. As Cena FU'd Alberto on a bunch of storage cases, here comes CM Punk with an insecurity kick to the back of Cena's head, and then he grabbed Alberto. 1, 2, 3. CM Punk helps Alberto Del Rio defeat John Cena. And CM Punk gave the exclamation point by delivering the GTS on Cena on the car, and then as Raw ended, the window of the driver's seat of the car that Punk was in went down, and it was Paul Heyman. Wow. Like I said, we had another week 3-hour Raw ended great with a decent main event with a lot of decent backstage spots, and the return of Paul Heyman after apparently Brock Lesnar left. So now we have Paul Heyman back with Punk. Of course, we know the infamous Punk pipe bomb heard around the world. The Punk mentioned Paul Heyman. He's a Paul Heyman guy. Well, now Punk's with Paul Heyman. What is this all about? This whole Paul Heyman Punk relationship now. We'll probably find out more on Raw next week. So, like I said, week Raw with a lot of stupid things like Kane and Bryan hugging it out, but eventually duking it out. AJ's little mental breakdown. And Punk walking out was stupid until the main event, with Punk coming back and interfering in the main event and having Paul Heyman drive the car that Punk was in. So we'll see what happens with Punk and Heyman, what that's all about next week on the last Raw before Night of Champions. That's it for my Raw review. See you all later. With that in mind, you better check by the review thumbs up. Once again, I hope you had a happy Labor Day. See you later. Yeah.